Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So raise your hand if you probably shouldn't be left attended in a bookstore. So I did really well last year. I feel like, for the most part, without actually reviewing all my videos, not bringing in like too many books into my library, and I've started off 2026 with a little bit of a bang, but mind you, these were all some really good finds, and it is not as monetary bad as it actually looks, because a lot of them were on sale. So Barnes & Noble always does like 50% off of either hardbacks or new releases, or I forget how they call it, at like the post-holiday. A couple of these I found on clearance at half price. I went looking for my book exchange book for my book club. I had actually a book club member getting rid of some books that I got. I do have a couple of the books in here that are just books that I am borrowing, but all really great books. And actually I do have a few books that have come in either from Goodreads wins or publishers. So this is going to be quite the book haul. Some I have already read, which is pretty exciting, and they are just going to be part of my collection and things that I can loan out to people. But without further ado, let's jump in. So the first couple that I will show you are ones that I got from a member of my book club, and that is this beautiful set of Fourth Wing books. So this one is like the black edges and the red cover. I want to say, oh, it was the exclusive holiday edition. So I have the regular edition of Fourth Wing on my shelves, and so more than likely I will probably not keep this edition, and I will get rid of the original and keep this one. But then she had this edition of Iron Flame with the blacked out edges. I don't know what special edition that one is. And then this beautiful edition of Onyx Storm. I am currently just starting to listen to this one, and this is the one with the dragons on the cover, or the end pages, and we all know I love those. So I've read the first two, but adding that one, and it just great opportunity to have those in my collection. Two that I am currently just borrowing, so they are only in my library for the time being. And that is Unlikely Angel, and this is by Ashley Smith, a coworker of mine. Christy gave me this one to read. She said it's really great. I do love a good nonfiction, I guess nonfiction, possibly memoir, and it actually does say it's now a major motion picture. So it is the untold story of the Atlanta hostage hero. So it looks like it happened in March of 2005, which would have been the year I graduated high school. So I don't know too much more about this one. But she said it was an excellent read, and so I always like having some nonfiction options. And then another coworker of mine that I tend to give a lot of my books to read said, oh my gosh, this one's amazing. She currently has a couple of my books, so she said, how about I bring you one for a change? And this is Wally Lamb's The River is Waiting, and she said it's wonderful. And it was one of Oprah's book club books in 2025. Not sure which month, but let's see. It says, powerful story of a young family in crisis. In the wake of an accident that leads to unthinkable tragedy, can a grief-stricken husband ever atone for what he's done? Is a heartbroken wife's forgiveness even possible? So, I like a lot of these. I don't want to go too much more into them just because we'll be here for a while. But onward. All right, one that I do believe I won off of Goodreads, and this is an ARC. It is going to come out, I'm assuming in August. They usually say on here. Maybe it's the paperwork. You're like, okay, get on with it, Amber. We just want to see. Okay, it's coming out August 4th. And that is, I think it's pronounced Freya. And this is by Margaret Ann Thors. And I believe this is a translated work because... she's an Icelandic American writer based in, I believe, what is Iceland. So this says it's going to be the unsolved case of a young girl's disappearance, and it's going to be reopened after 20 years in this moody, atmospheric debut. So I enter like ridiculous amounts of Goodreads giveaways, so there's that one. I am trying to think if any of these other ones were... can't remember if I hauled this one or not. And so I did win an ARC of Ashley Elston's Anatomy of an Alibi, and then forgot and picked it up in the book of the month. So now I have 2 copies of this. More than likely, the ARC will end up in a free little library somewhere, but I'm very, very excited to pick this up because I really liked First Lay Wins, her first book, and so I'm really looking forward to this one. And I think this is the case of like mistaken identity kind of thing. So not going too much into that one. Yeah. All right. A book that I got through my book clubs. We do like a Christmas gift exchange every year. And we always do it with books. And that is The Things We Cannot Say. And this is by Kelly Rimmer. I think this is perfect because I don't always have enough historical fiction on my shelves. Clearly, they're very thriller heavy, and you'll even see that today. And so I love the way we do it because we always do kind of like that blind date with the book kind of thing. And so I've kept the note card that my friend Nicole ended up writing. This has a fantastic Goodreads rating. It's a 4.54, and she said it was actually one of her favorite books of 2025. But we've got World War II, Parenting a Child with Autism, and the Power of Love, Loyalty, and Honor. So thank you, Nicole, for that description and being able to add that one to my library. I'm going to slowly push these away. 2 other ones that I picked up from Book of the Month, and that is The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead. I have to have a physical copy of this, and if Book of the Month is going to release it early, that is great. I do have an ARC of this, but I knew it would be a book that I'd want to put on my shelves no matter what. And I want to say this is going to be some sort of either band or singer that's coming together and, you know, dealing with a lot of the things that come with that. So I don't want to be too spoiled. Cover is beautiful. I'm curious what kind of different covers this one's going to have, because I know sometimes like the different releases have different covers. So there's that one. And then one I am so excited about is Alice Beanie's, and this is My Husband's Wife. This one was a slight, I guess, early release, but I think this released like the first week of January, so not super, super early, but it says 1 house, 1 husband, 2 women, somebody is lying. So you know, who's the real wife, who isn't? I have loved Alice Beanie. I mean, not all of them are perfect 5 stars, but I've enjoyed them ever since. And I'm almost read her to 0. I think I have this one and maybe one more after that left. So that will be very exciting. A couple that I had already read, but I knew I needed copies of on my shelves because these are books that I know I want to loan out. First, And Then Boom, and this is by Lisa Phipps. I absolutely have loved everything by her. These are middle grade. They are told in, you know, in verse, but so powerful, so good. Her book Starfish is amazing. This one is amazing. And just great connections for the kids that she writes about. So there's that. I have no idea why I didn't have this book already. No idea. And that is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This book is fantastic. I think everybody's talking about this. This book tends to be, I feel like, in most people's top 25 or books of 2025. It is fantastic on audio, and I think everybody does need to read it because it's great. You know, we have a couple that is ice dancing. We know something has happened at the Olympics, and you get all of the backstory gossip, all of the good stuff. And then probably one of my favorite books of last year that I didn't read until December, and that was What Happened to the McRaes by Tracy Lang. This book is fantastic. When a book just hits you in the right time, you know it, and this was one of those books. There was great deep parts to it, made me cry in a few things. Just the stories, the 2 different time periods and character stories all came together just great. So this one I believe I found on clearance at half price because it was a Book of the Month copy, and it's not even that old of a Book of the Month copy because it only came out last year. So I feel pretty lucky about that one. I love a good clearance find. Speaking of other clearance finds, and these are 2 other ones that I found at half price. We all know I'm a sucker for these edges, and this is She's Not Sorry by Mary Kupka. This was the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, I think because of the sprayed edges, and it says it includes, you know, extra content. The only thing I don't like, I hate when this cover, you know, ends early, I guess. But the sprayed edges says, everyone has secrets, not everyone has remorse. So, love it. And I want to say this was her last year's release. So, if I'm remembering correctly. Just kidding, 2024. So, it's technically 2 years ago. But it, I think, is... they're trying to figure out how a woman fell from a bridge, and we have a nurse that's trying to keep herself like separate from it, but can't exactly. So there's that. One that is going to join the collection because this is a series I am doing this year. And so I picked up The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I am committing myself to this whole series. You will see me read these books in 2026. I should have made that part of my goals video. I didn't, but it is happening. So this is joining wherever I put those ones. I think actually they're on the shelves behind the camera. So it is happening. I'm committing myself to it. A book that I got from a Secret Santa exchange at work, because not only did my Secret Santa know that I liked books, but she also knows I have my annual cookie baking weekend with my friends. And so she got me this amazing hardcover book that is basically all new Christmas cookies by Taste of Home. It is awesome. There's some really, really amazing looking recipes in here, and none of them look like super complicated. And they may be as I start to look into them, but it's just so many more different options, which is fun because if I do ever decide to like, you know, switch it up, I've got this here, which I think is awesome. And what a unique, like thoughtful gift that was. All right. Another half price find. I think I got this like $3 on clearance, and that is Penitence, I think it is, by Kristen Koval. This was a book of the month book, but I don't think this is a book of the month copy. And this was another one of those that I debated giving for my book club giveaway, and had really, really great ratings on Goodreads, if I remember right. And it says it's an exploration of love and forgiveness, suspenseful, addictive, and page-turning, filled with literary insight that compels the reader to consider whether the worst thing we've ever done is all that defines us. So if you've read this one, let me know what you think. But easy, good, cheap books. We love that. Like I said, I'm trying to cruise through this so that we are not here completely forever. One that I knew I needed to pick up because not only will I read it, but I know my dad will as well. All throughout high school, I was obsessed with the Alex Cross books by James Patterson. And when I saw this title coming out, I talked about it in one of my new release videos. I found out that his newest one in the Alex Cross series is The Return of the Spider. And now, of course, I'm not going to be able to remember the actual title. I think it was Along Came a Spider. Yep, that's what I'm trying to think of. It was, I want to say, the first book in this series. So I think it's really neat that we're kind of like, you know, coming back around. So I have always wanted to get back into those stories. I have not read all of the Alex Cross books by any means, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. Let's see. What else did I'm like trying to make sure I talk about these in some semblance of order. So a lot of these came from the Barnes & Noble sale, and a lot of them were new releases, and so it was just really hard to like turn them down. This is Ruth Ware's The Woman in Suite 11. I actually just finished this at the beginning of 2026. It was one of my first books that I finished. It's got the beautiful sprayed edges, which I love, and really cheap hardcovers. So love that. You'll hear more about my thoughts on this one at the end of the month. Once again, part of that sale, I picked up High Season, and this is by Katie Bishop. I read another book by Katie Bishop. It might have been her debut. Now, if I take a look at it, I just want to double check her list of books. Sometimes they have them in here and sometimes they don't. Oh yeah, so she wrote The Girls of Summer, and so I did read that one. I liked it. I think I had that one as an ARC, and so I wanted to pick this one up. I absolutely love this cover, and I think it's based on like a summer night. We find a body face down in the pool in France, and I want to say it was like her 6-year-old sister is the only one that was a witness. So we're going to find out what happens. Love that. I have seen this book on several people's best books of the year. This is a YA mystery. We all know a lot of my YAs, I like a good mystery. And that is The Thrashers by Julie Soto. I know of at least 2 people I think I've seen talk about this. And now I'm trying to think of what their channels are. I'll try to link them below if I remember. But like I said, at least 2 people that have talked about this being one of their favorite books of 2025. And so I was like, ooh, definitely have to pick it up. And I do love a book that I know I could maybe possibly, goodness gracious, recommend to students. And so looks like we have an elite friend group at a high school. They're kind of who everyone wants to be. But somebody that desperately wanted to be part of our group, which is called the Thrashers apparently, dies, and you know, everyone kind of starts whispering and trying to figure out what's going on. So that one caught my eye, and like I said, if it comes with a really high rating, I for sure want to pick that one up. One that I think was on like ridiculous sale, like $4 for a hardcover, was The Surf House, and this is by Lucy Clark. Now this one, I want to say I kept seeing at the library, and it intrigues me. I mean, anything with water, tropical, you know, some sort of cover definitely is going to intrigue me. And so this one, and actually the thing here says, no one does destination thrillers better than Lucy Clark. And it says this Surf House is no exception. So it's page turning, beautifully written, full of tension. And I believe it's set on the high cliffs of Morocco. And so we're trying to figure out like what is going on here, what kind of mystery is this like island hiding. So definitely caught my eye, and super cheap hardcover. So there's that. One that I specifically bought because of one of the authors, and that is Gone Before Goodbye, and this is Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben. Now this was I think over like the holidays, Target was having like over 50% off of like 3 or 4 books every week, and this was one of them. So I think I got this book for like $8, brand new hardcover, and it's the Target exclusive apparently, which I think is why it's this white color and not the darker color that it usually has. And so it says it's gonna have more content, but I love Reese Witherspoon. I have read her actual like nonfiction book that she wrote. I think it's Whiskey in a Teacup, I believe. Sweet Home Alabama is one of my absolute favorite movies, and so I knew I had to pick this one up. And this is going to be the unforgettable story of an indomitable woman trapped in a conspiracy she helped create, but she doesn't understand. So yep, that was a Reese Witherspoon pickup for sure, and it was on sale. All right, only a few more, I promise. One that I just finished reading, and I love this. You're gonna hear more about it in my wrap up, but I loved it so much, and that is The Storm by Rachel Hawkins. Now I know Rachel Hawkins is hit or miss for a lot of people. I really liked the twist in this one. Like I said, I'll talk more about it. And for me, it's a personal connection. This book is set on the Gulf Coast of Alabama, which I've talked about numerous times, is part of the reason my channel is named Books and Beaches, because that is where my family has vacationed, and I will be back there again this year. So I don't want to say too much more about this one because you will hear it at, you know, the end of the month, beginning of the month, next month when I talk about it, but I really liked it. So, and hello, this cover, it's great. So there's that. All right, another one that I had read, and I forget where I ended up getting this copy, but that is We Are All Guilty Here, and this is by Karen Slaughter. Really like this one. This is book 1 in a new series that she's doing, and it is very twisty. We have got, you know, the disappearance / murder of these 2 girls. We're going through multiple timelines, some different perspectives of basically like a family police force, because not only do we have a father and daughter, then in the future timeline, her son eventually gets to be part of like the police sheriff department. So really good. I cannot wait to see what more comes out of this series by Karen Slaughter. So I know I was just talking to Lindsay from this little library today, and she does say these chapters are super long, and yes, I would agree. But for me, it was definitely really good. And let's see, one that has been calling my name for so long, and I think it's got some really great ratings. And actually, now that I'm looking at the cover, this was the young adult Good Morning America book club pick, and that is Under the Same Stars, and this is by Liba Bray. Beautiful edges per usual. And let's see, a couple different timelines. So we have New York City in 2020, West Berlin in 1980, and Kleinwald, Germany in 1939. So, and it says, you would like me to tell the story. What if the story I need to tell is not the one you want to hear? Very well, it begins the same, once upon a time. And I think we're taking a look at a lot of different, obviously a lot of different time periods, but you know, how a couple teenagers went missing in Germany 80 years ago. So don't want to know too much more, but I'm very intrigued. All right, we only have 2 more. I promise. I know we've been here for a while. This one caught my attention purely by the cover, and sometimes I just need to, you know, break up some of these thrillers. And this is Beach House Rules by Christy Woodson Harvey. And I mean, obviously, cover by Hello. And it says this is going to be the dramatic story of Charlotte and Iris, and it's a mother-daughter duo who find themselves struggling at a crossroads in their lives. So They are forming a mommune, a bunch of single mothers, and through the power of friendship and love, they are going to persevere and even triumph as a family and solving a mystery. So and yes, I know I said I was getting away from the thrillers. This might be a little bit more lighthearted, and it needed to join the club. And then last but certainly not least is a book that I know I talked about a couple of times before, probably in new release videos, and that is Count My Lies, and this is by Sophie Stava, and it also looks like this was a GMA book club pick. I believe this has phenomenal reviews and like stars on Goodreads, but it says, "I'm here to help you. I'm your friend. You can trust me." And then it says, Salone Caraway is a liar. So usually harmless lies, but she likes to make her life a little bit more interesting. And, you know, she looks like she's going to try to help a young girl and her dad. And things just kind of go from there as she becomes this nanny. So we shall see what happens in this one. But those are all of the books that have come into my life lately. And let's face it, that is enough books for quite some time. So I'm going to really try to be conscious of not bringing in too many more. It is really hard because there are some amazing books coming out in January alone. I haven't even begun to look what comes out for the rest of the year. I know I have some NetGalley stuff, so I will take it easy, but there are no guarantees ever because book buying and book reading are two different hobbies. We all know that. So let me know what are some books that you've picked up lately. Did you hit up any of the sales and different things going on over the holidays? Feel free to let me know those in the comments below. If you don't have too much to say, but you just want to let me know you were here, feel free to leave the stack of books emoji in the comments. I so greatly appreciate you interacting with my channel and being here. So as always, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.